I hope you're ready. This is going to be exciting.
And we got car restarts up to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. Spectacular fashion.
Good afternoon, Goat Locker Racing fans. The bye week has been completed and we are back for our one and only road course of the season. Our SAVE22 Truck Series drivers will turn right more times than left tonight as Week 7 brings us to New York State for Watkins Glen. I'm your host, Logan Threlkeld, of course sharing the booth with Daniel Cunningham as Lucas Lyons runs the production truck with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daniel, it's been a couple weeks. How are we looking out here in this practice session and now into qualifying as these drivers are trying to get the fastest lap?
Yeah, it was the off week was nice. It was fun getting to do the charity race or the fundraiser race, whatever you want to call it, that we did last Wednesday as well here in Goat Locker. But yeah, it looks like based off of what we've seen in practice so far, a little bit more of the same of what we saw before the bye week with Mark Whitley trying to put his stamp as the dominant driver of the season. Currently, as they run in qualifying, sitting in P1 and was P1 in practice as well. So these drivers going to have an uphill challenge to try to take him out of that #1 spot this evening.
Already with 3 wins on the season, let's bring up our current point standings here. As we are just on the front half of the schedule. Mark Whitley, 3 wins. Jeremy Gardner, Charles Abert, Patrick Drabick, all able to pick up some wins themselves. Then Jake Ellingson rounds out the top 5, just 25 points behind our current leader, Mark Whitley. Levi McCarthy, Michael Kostick, Jamie Mullins, Eldon Stewart, Jamie Barkas round out your top 10. And right back here at the cut line, it'll get a lot more important as the weeks continue to tick on by. But we're getting close to it. Craig Bontrager, Regis Clark, their spots are not secured by any means. James Kaufman, George Jewell, Tyler Justice, Timothy Peters, Brandon Wallace, Daniel Parks, Logan Big Fish Sturgeon, and Stephen McDonald round out the top 20. Tell us a little bit about what we've got ahead of us in these coming weeks to take us to these playoffs, Daniel.
Yeah, taking a look at the schedule, so we pretty much approach the halfway point of the season here with Watkins Glen this evening. Next week, one of my personal favorite racetracks, Darlington. Also got a little bit of a special theme going on next week with band night as we head to the Lady in Black, similar to what we did Wednesday night at Darlington in the Next Gen series. North Wilkesboro after that, another throwback racetrack 2 weeks in a row there. Michigan to round out the regular season. Kind of hard to believe that we're already at that point where we're closing in on setting that playoff field. Round to 12 with Texas and Richmond. 2 pretty different racetracks there. We've got 2 back-to-back short tracks in the playoffs with Richmond and Bristol, then Homestead and Phoenix to round it out. But these drivers still got a lot of ground that they can make up or lose. And as we saw on that points graphic, the battle around the cut line for those final few playoff spots is pretty tight between quite a few drivers.
That it is. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the difficulties that these drivers will face here at Watkins Glen. Pull up the track map and let you have a look at it. 2.45 miles around. It'll be 40 laps tonight. That'll equal out to 90 miles or 98 miles rather on the dot. We got it's actually the 8 corner configuration here But turn one will be the biggest problem maker to start the night. All these trucks will be barreling down there, trying to get it downshifted on cold tires. You don't want to skip and hop on that rear axle, as that will certainly claim a couple victims. Up the hill into the S's, down to the bus stop before that outer loop, the carousel. Then a short straight down into what will be turn 7, and then final turn 8 corner exit back down the front stretch. Daniel, before we get to our grid, why don't you go over our race details for us tonight?
Yeah, definitely got that 40 laps, like you mentioned, 45-mile-an-hour pit road speed. This is also a kind of a deceptively difficult pit road to get onto because of where the timing line starts, and seen a few drivers actually spin out with some practice attempts at getting onto pit road as well. Something else to keep an eye on. 3 sets of tires in the pits, probably only going to need one of them throughout the night just with that fuel run that we see there. We do have 2 green-white checkered attempts, but there's no iRacing cautions at a road course. So unless we get a track blocker somewhere along the line and race control throws a manual caution, probably not going to see any restarts. But we do have a full fuel load, 100% fuel run between 26 to 28 laps. So that'll put them pretty squarely as a one-stop strategy here tonight.
And strategy can still come into play. Do you want to take it all the way to the end of that fuel run, or do you want to split the race perfectly in half? Bring it down right there on lap 20, get some fresh tires, top off the rest of the fuel, and then you're good to go till the end. But before we get to the end, we have to get to the beginning and taking a look at our Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award, going to none other than last week's winner, Mark Whitley. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. Congratulations to Mark Whitley once again picking up another Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award, but it wasn't easy. Michael Kostick comes in hot for second place with a 1 minute 12 second .606, just 0.2 off the pace of Whitley, so certainly a contender for tonight's race. Row 2 will be Levi McCarty in the 24, starting out next to the 33 of Tyler Justice. Behind them in 5th will be the 42 of Jeremy Gardner, lined up next to the 66 of Jamie Mullins. Starting out in P7, it's the 27 of Jacob Ellingson next to the 49 of Craig Bontrager. And last but not least, in row 5, it's James Coffin in the 25 next to the 36 of George Jewell.
Taking a starting position just outside the top 10 is going to be James Goshen in the 85, starting in 11th. Daniel Parks rolling off in 12th this evening. Starting in 13th, just recently had a birthday, Brandon Wallace in the 99, with Charles Aber to his outside in 14th. Starting in 15th is going to be Logan Big Fish Sturgeon with Warren Clayton in the 16th position. Starting in 17th is going to be Chuck Pegleg Phelps with Eldon Stewart in 18th. And in our last row on the grid, rounding out the field, Michael Seymour in 19th, Matt Knights rolling off in 20th.
Our field is rolling down through turn 1 already, working their way up the hill into the S's for the first time tonight. Under pacing conditions, of course. We've got the full lap here, so we've got a great look at just how well these cars are fitting on the track, really. It's a very narrow course. You can have some 3-wide situations, but it's mostly going to be 2-wide at the max. That's where the comfort really comes into play, but all bets are off when it comes to lap 1, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. You see it in real life NASCAR here. Turn 1, lap 1, or really any restart on lap 1, even in real life, they use every bit of that runoff area, all the paved area out there. Now you could do that in iRacing as well. They've done some updates to this track. They've taken and eased some of the track limits in that turn 1 area, as well as the I don't remember what turn it is, 5, 6, whatever it is, out of the carousel. Depending on who you talk to, they've got different numbers for each of these turns. But you could use a lot more of that runoff area now without getting those off tracks. So something else to keep an eye on as we go through the race here this evening.
And all I can say to that is finally, I have had a couple races ripped out of my hands due to some track limit penalties, and now we can really extend that out all the way to the wall out of turn 1. So these drivers up at the front will certainly be using every single bit of the track, as these tires will be cold, diving down into that first 90-degree right-hander. But into turn 7, just one more corner to go. The green flag will wave. For the first time tonight here, hopefully the only time at Watkins Glen, the SAVE22.vet Truck Series. As the pace truck comes off down the front stretch, green flag in the air, and it drops our drivers away on the loud pedal down the front stretch into turn 1, side by side. Who's it gonna be?
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see here. It's like everybody keeping it pretty clean through turn number 1, excuse me. But I was curious to see if maybe that outside lane might be able to prevail on the initial start. You see that a lot in real life, and I've seen it a few times here on iRacing as well, where a lot of times you're able to carry a little bit more momentum because you can use all of that runoff area. But nice job by Mark Whitley here. This might be one of my favorite camera angles with these guys coming through the bus stop.
You can thank Dougie Beard for that one. Beautiful spot for that camera. Bus stop entrance, you can see just how closely some of those drivers will get to that wall on the right-hand side of the truck. We get through this race, coming racing out of the carousel, nearly a pass 4 position there in the middle of the pack. Sorts itself out before we get down to turn 7. As we come through, Mark Whitley has a 0.6 of a second lead over Michael Kostick. And back down the front stretch to lead lap number 1. It's the 77, kicking things off, trying to keep the streak hot.
Yeah, like you mentioned, already out to a 7/8 of a second lead now for that 77 of Mark Whitley. And, you know, something I'm going to be curious to see here. So we did run a next-gen race at Watkins Glen already this season with that Cruising Classic Series on Wednesday night. And when these drivers were crossing over some of these rumble strips, it was just upsetting those cars. Now, granted, different vehicle here this evening with the trucks that they're running, but I'm really curious to see if we may see a little bit of that here tonight, especially once we get into the tire run and they start to lose a little bit of grip, if that's something that these drivers might be fighting against.
And these trucks inherently more loose than those next-gen cars. We'll certainly see some sort of sliding action at some point in this race. If I was to guess, we'll start seeing it right around the lap 12 to 15 area. That'll be sufficient enough on the tire wear to really start to come into play. It could even be earlier for some of these drivers who really have to push at the start of this race to hold on to position, or side-by-side battling as we work down into the last corner here. A couple battles on the field. Right in front of our eyes, I believe that was the 42, Jeremy Gardner, the 27 of Jake Ellingson. Side by side down the front stretch we go. Who's going to stay on the brakes the longest? This is 25, James Kaufman coming out ahead for that one.
Yeah, and you could really even see it there through that last set of turns before the start-finish line, just how much of that runoff area they were even using there. A lot of drivers choosing to go wide to try to carry some more momentum. And you could also see the 49 of Bontrager there back in, starting to dance around just a little bit as they came up through the S's. And I know, you know, I'm not much of a road racer myself, but Watkins Glen is probably the one track that I feel like I at least halfway know what I'm doing. And that last portion of the S's, when you get up to the top of that hill, it just seems like no matter what you're driving, the car just kind of unloads, and that back end really starts to get loose, where you've got to be gentle with the throttle and you just got to be ready to kind of counter steer it as well.
That's exactly how you have to drive this truck. Mark Whitley has figured it out already, is setting lap times nearly identical to his qualifying effort. The clean air definitely being a big factor in that right now, as Michael Kostick is now a little over a second behind. But battling that dirty air can be quite treacherous, especially up through the S's in these trucks. It just really poses a challenge for these drivers that you're not prepared for it, you might meet that wall on the exit out of the S's a lot quicker than you would think.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, especially with the trucks, dirty air always going to play a factor in these races. And, you know, Logan, I know that you do a little bit more road racing than I do. Not that that is a tall bar to hop over, but I know you've been running like the GT3s and stuff on Saturday nights, and it seems like you've been having a lot of fun over there with that. So with having a little bit more road course experience, what would you say would be your key if you were out there on the track tonight to try to come away with a good finish?
Really, when it comes down to these trucks, it's all about that aerodynamic, trying to not get too much dirty air on the nose, and then your braking zones. You have to be efficient on the brakes. Don't lock them up. You don't want to skip and hop down into the corner. That's so easy to do down into turn one with the downhill effect that you're also battling. So breaking points and just trying to stay out of the dirty air in front. You're going to see a lot of it here. You don't have much option. So we take a look at the 7 of Charles Abert trying to get around the 26 of Logan Sturgeon. It's just not quite there yet. Let these tires break in a little bit more, get a little bit more scuff on it. Things can start happening at any moment. Drivers getting loose out of the corner or locking up into the corner can certainly give you an opportunity to stick the nose in there and get around just like that. As a 7 of Abert loose out of the S's. Eldon Stewart to the inside to the bus stop. Makes it stick. That got close though. Luckily, both drivers thinking better of it. It's only lap 5. You don't want to end the race early.
Yeah, that was definitely a strong move by Eldon Stewart there. Another battle, got a couple battles here going on inside the top 10. You see Tyler Justice here riding right behind Jeremy Gardner. Actually, the battle inside the top 5, trying to find his way around there. Justice seems like just kind of content to maybe follow his teammate right now, just log some laps. A little bit further back, though, inside the top 10, battle for the 9th position between the 25 of Kaufman, the 36 of George Jewell. George Jewell, also one of our drivers that has his webcam here this evening. A few of our drivers that have opted to do that. Take a look on board with him here as we watch him battle for this position. And you know, this is a lot of times with the driver cams, they kind of look like they're on a Sunday drive, but I think we're going to see something a little bit different. As you can see there on the right-hand side, George Jewell just about tried to send it into the bus stop. Thought better of it, trying to get around Kaufman there, and you can really see just how much wheel that George Jewell is putting into it, just trying to get through the carousel there also.
Just behind that battle, we actually did have a driver send it through the bus stop. Logan Sturgeon, a little bit late on the brakes, locked it up and went sideways through the cones. Luckily didn't hit anything, so his race will continue, but he does lose a lot of ground. So he's now 2 spots behind where he started, back to P17 for the moment.
Yeah, this battle between George Jewell and James Kaufman still going on here. Kaufman trying to find a way around. Let's take a look a little bit further up in the running order. Got a battle for the final podium position brewing here between Levi McCarty and Jeremy Gardner. Gardner closed right up to the back of McCarty now and trying to find his way around.
Gardner, another one of those drivers you'll see frequently in that Saturday night GT3 series. So certainly playing a role in his ability to get around Watkins Glen here, a little bit more comfortable with that road course scenario. So he hugs it tight to the inside line through the carousel, comes out wide trying to pick up some speed. See if he can make a move here on McCarty before they get back into turn 1. Got to close that gap up just a little bit more. Right now sitting at about 0.4 of a second. If he can get within about 0.2 of a second by turn 1, I'd say we'll be looking at a move to the inside here. We'll find out momentarily out of turn 8, back down the front stretch. Screaming across the line at 145 miles an hour, but stays right in line here. Does get a better entry down through turn 1, a better exit, comes out way more wide, sets up good for the S's, but can't quite get there to do anything with it. A little bit further back, James Kaufman James Goshen, George Jewell, they're all fighting for a spot here as they're entering the S's now. It rolls in order of Goshen, Kaufman, Jewell. Position swap there between the three.
And you
Goshen
know, I
coming out the better of it.
I think there may have even been a little bit of contact there between the drivers of the 25 and the 36 down in turn 1. I only caught the tail end of it. Oh, yeah, George Jewell got in there hot, actually smoked that right front tire trying to stay off of Kaufman. They do make contact, but able to keep it straight and keep it going there. And, you know, we had touched on this battle a little bit earlier. George Jewell, it seemed like he was faster. It's just hard to find your way around at this racetrack sometimes with the way that these trucks drive here. And I think he saw his window of opportunity to try to get down in here and just, well, actually from that angle, it looks like maybe Kaufman turned in a little bit more than maybe Jewell expected, but both drivers able to keep it straight, keep it going, minimal loss there for the two of them, and we continue on.
There's even a little bit more contact after that. We'll keep it here on the live scene as Jeremy Gardner is now all over that back bumper, the 24. Levi McCarty is going to have to defend for this position as hard as he can. Still very early in the race. I would say Gardner will hold off on the move into the bus stop as he does fall in line. Trying to make the best of the exit here. Levi McCarty a little bit faster through that bus stop section. Able to get out about 4/10 ahead now of Jeremy Gardner. Very, very interesting how that almost had a accordion effect there. Gardner closed that gap up and McCarty opened it right back up.
Yeah, and if there's one thing I can guarantee you, Levi McCarty is not going to be an easy pass. I have gotten to race against him in a few different series here at Goat Locker, and not saying that in a bad way. He doesn't do anything wrong with it. He's going to make you earn it to try to get around him. As we take another look here at this battle between Kaufman and George Jewell, these two are going to be tired of looking at each other's trucks here by the end of the evening. George Jewell still hounding Kaufman for that final spot in the top 10. But just not quite able to find a way around as of yet.
Can't keep your eyes off of that 85 just ahead of him as well. It seems like Kaufman is able to get away a little bit from Jewell. He closes that gap up to James Goshen. Oh, and here we go. Kaufman goes wide. That allows Jewell to get right on by on the inside of the exit of the S's. He had a lot of momentum. I thought he was going to attack into the bus stop, but he holds off for now, claiming that 10th position here on lap 10. Looking to make it 9th as well, all over that back bumper of James Goshen.
Yeah, and it seems like George Jewell is the faster truck of these three at the moment. But it's just like we saw earlier, are you going to be able to find a way around? George Jewell taking a look to the inside here. It's going to have to try to complete this pass quick because Goshen will have the preferred line in the final turn. But Jewell able to complete the pass for now. And actually, just as soon as I say that, here comes Goshen fighting back on the inside. Like George Jewell missed that final turn just a little bit. And right back by on the inside is the 85 of James Goshen.
And that 25 of Kaufman almost snuck back in there. And take a look behind coming out of turn 1. It's that number 1 of Eldon Stewart. He is already up 6 positions from where he started back in P18. He's the biggest mover so far this race, and he's got 3 positions right in front of him. If any one of these drivers make a mistake, that number 1 will be there to capitalize on it for certain. Back into the bus stop here. Goshen still leading Jewell, but Jewell heavy on the trail. Goshen comes out wide for the entrance of the carousel. Jewell keeps a little bit closer to that inside line. I think it plays off a little bit better for that 36 there, as he's able to stay right within that 0.2 of a second mark.
Yeah, just up the road from these two, they are actually starting to close in just a little bit, or rather not closing in, but just up the road from these two is the 66 of Jamie Mullins. He's kind of struggled a little bit here from the beginning of this race. He's actually fallen back just a couple of spots, but One of the things we want to shout out here is our league sponsors, and Mullins in that 66 does have our title sponsor for this series, SAVE22, on his truck. SAVE22 is a 501c3 organization dedicated to preventing suicide among veterans, active duty personnel, and first responders. Their unwavering mission extends to 4 critical pillars: shield, assist, volunteer, educate, as save22.vet. We appreciate all their support here at Goat Locker.
That SAVE22, number 66 of Mullins, works all the way through the carousel here. Looks like a little bit of a slippery action there at the bottom of the hill. That back end looked like it stepped out just a touch, able to control it. But here's that window I was thinking, somewhere in the lap 12 to 15 range when that might start being a problem for some of these drivers. Mark Whitley still leading the pack, nearly 5 seconds out ahead of Michael Kostick. Kostick has nearly a 10-second gap over Levi McCarty and Jeremy Gardner. And it is a pretty spread out field here. That battle for that 10th position has not and will not go away. Eldon Stewart even in the mix now, as he's just 0.6 of a second behind the 25 of James Kaufman. A big slide for Stewart out of turn 1, though. That transition over that curbing can be very dangerous, especially on the longer run tire.
Yeah, absolutely. That was something that we did see in that next gen race as well. Just that curbing can upset the balance of the vehicles quite a bit. And it seems like ever since they did the recent update to Watkins Glen, that's made that a little bit more prevalent, at least in all the stock cars. And you can see back there just behind these two, Eldon Stewart now right on the back bumper of James Kaufman as they head through the carousel. And even that last lap by, Eldon Stewart was the fastest of these 4 drivers by about, actually, no, I'm sorry. That was James Goshen was the fastest, but Eldon Stewart was the next fastest out of this group. So a little bit of battling there in front of him. If he could clear the 25 of Kaufman, he may be able to chase these 2 down in front of him as they continue to battle for position, maybe slow each other down a little.
The race leader has managed to work his way around 3 drivers so far. Matt Knights, Warren Clayton, Michael Seymour. 18th, 19th, and 20th being scored a lap or 2 down. Keeping an eye here on this group of 4, but up towards the front. Jeremy Gardner is closing that gap to Levi McCarty once again as we are starting to enter that pit window cycle. From this point, these drivers could make it on fuel, but will they elect to do so? That's the big question on the table. It's very early to take tires, but it's a strategy that could be played. Big slide for Gardner out of turn number 7. I think McCarty even had a little bit of a slip himself, and Gardner gets a much better run out of turn 8 down the front stretch. Using the draft, what little bit there is. Elects to stay behind McCarty again down into turn 1, biding his time right now, the 42. We see this time and time again where he will just drive the truck as comfortably as he can and then turn up the heat in the last 10 or so laps. It's a strategy that Jeremy Gardner plays very well.
Yeah, that's kind of his MO here in Goat Lockers, just taking care of his stuff, having that speed on the longer runs, as a lot of these races do tend to go green. We don't tend to have a whole lot of cautions, of course, here at the road courses. The chances of a caution are pretty much zero, and especially once you get past that initial start. Not really the possibility there for the track blockers as we tend to see, but right now, though, Jeremy Gardner using a lot more real estate on the racetrack to try to make time here than Levi McCarty is. Levi kind of keeping it on the, we'll say, more traditional line where, you're almost thinking that you do have those track limits that you have to follow, whereas Jeremy Gardner is basically saying, what's a track limit? I'm going to use it if it's paved, and he's just going for it right now.
If it's available, I am all for it. Use up as much of the racetrack as they will let you. That can certainly put down some fast lap times, and that's one thing I want to bring to attention here. More than half of our field is already 2 seconds off of their qualifying pace or their best lap of the race so far. Mark Whitley has only fallen off a little over a second. That is just a massive difference here. Even Michael Kostick running in second place right now is a 1.5 seconds off pace. So that perfectly explains that 6-second gap that we're seeing between first and second. And then, of course, 17 seconds back to third, this battle we have on the screen right now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely more of what we saw at Rockingham out of the 77, just with incredible long run pace. But this is really the closest that we've seen Jeremy Gardner to the back of that 24 truck as they head through these last 2 sets of turns before we get down to probably one of the better passing zones in turn number 1. You see Gardner trying to maybe carry a little bit of momentum, but this is definitely the closest. We'll see if he tries to outbrake McCarty here into turn number 1, or if we maybe have an incident of what happened between George Jewell and Kaufman earlier, but able to get through clean, but not quite able to outbrake the 24. Jeremy Gardner going to slide back in behind, still in that 4th position.
It looked like McCarty playing a little bit of defense there, kind of cut the entrance angle down for Gardner, but not hindering his ability to get down into turn 1. That's how you want to play that whenever you're defending for that position. Gardner steps out of line, takes a small look to the inside for the bus stop. But here we are behind, I believe that's the 64 of Matt Knights that these drivers will work to the inside of here through the carousel. 64 getting out of the way for this podium position battle.
Yeah, nice job by Matt Knights to give our lead lap drivers plenty of room there to continue this battle that they have going on. And yeah, you may be able to elaborate on this a little bit more, but it just seems like with the trucks, it's so hard to try to outbrake somebody unless you're almost alongside them going into the turn. It just seems like there's such a fine line of either locking up the front tires, as we saw earlier, or maybe getting a little bit of wheel hop in the back end wanting to snap around. So you've really got to have everything lined up just about perfect to be able to complete some of these passes or try to force the driver in front of you into a mistake.
It all depends, too, on how much practice you can get manipulating the brake bias from forward to backwards through the track. Good drivers will be able to adjust on the fly for every single corner of the circuit. But the biggest one you have to focus on is not moving it too far backwards, especially once you get to the end of these longer runs. And we're talking about a 27-lap potential fuel run. That's a lot of weight off the rear end that can easily lock up the rear tires if you have that brake bias set too far back. Right now, these drivers here in the battle for the top 3 are doing a fantastic job of, hitting all of their marks right now. Just, although it seems effortless, it is very, very tough.
Yeah, absolutely difficult to get around this track. But we're closing in on the halfway point. So, you would think we've talked about strategy here throughout the evening to see Jeremy Gardner maybe finally in that position to outbrake Levi McCarty. He is going to be able to, carries that momentum through turn number 1. And Jeremy Gardner up into the final podium position. But, we have talked about strategy throughout the evening as we get ready to hit the halfway point here. To me, that would be the strategy that I would most likely run. Split it evenly, come in right around that halfway mark. But do you feel like maybe there is that benefit because we have seen passing so difficult here this evening that maybe you would be better off with the tire fall off to just go ahead and undercut and try to get that track position and just play defense from there?
That's kind of, it's a little bit late to call for an undercut as Eldon Stewart shoots to the inside, gets around the 36 of George Jewell up into a top 10 spot. But you have to keep in mind drivers like exactly this right here, the one of Eldon Stewart. He started at the back of the pack. He's had great pace all night, up 8 positions from where he started. If the drivers around you are pitting and you're currently faster than they are, you might turn a lap or 2 more on the older tires just to maximize that lifespan and come in, get some fresh tires. A few laps later, you'll have even more of an advantage than you do now when you catch back up to these drivers. So there's all sorts of different ways that this could be played right now. Jake Ellingson will be our first driver to bring it down pit road, though the 27 making an early stop here right at the halfway point. Charles Abert will follow suit. So they will fall out of the top 10. Abert, I believe, came down in the P13 position. We'll cycle back to 15th and 16th, respectively. Brandon Wallace is also going to bring it down here. Eldon Stewart all over the back bumper of James Goshen here now for P8.
Yeah, and I was curious if Eldon Stewart was maybe going to try the same move that he did on George Jewell and try to outbrake James Goshen into the bus stop. Seen him make that pass on a couple of different drivers here this evening. So, you know, we talk about passing zones, and you don't really want to run side by side through the bus stop, but if you can get that pass done early and outbreak somebody into that zone, definitely a place that you can make some ground up. But right now, James Goshen doing a nice job running in that 8th position, just keeping the truck clean, keeping it on the pavement, doing everything he needs to do to bring home a solid finish. As you can see over there on the left, Tyler Justice, Craig Bontrager, Jamie Mullins, George Jewell, Kaufman, Knights, they are all on pit road. So the window is open. We talked about splitting it in half, and a lot of drivers electing to take that route here early on and just go ahead and try to do 2 pretty much even runs here.
The overcut going to come into play for a couple of the drivers. Mark Whitley certainly not looking to bring it down pit road just yet. As I say that, he brings it right down pit road. So I will eat my hat on that one. The 77 will let go of the lead for just 1 lap as Michael Kostick will continue around Watkins Glen one more time. Jeremy Gardner, keep an eye on him on the scoring and timing. And Stewart, James Goshen have moved up to now P5 and P6. Jake Ellingson has cycled back out now. He's worked his way up to 10th already after the pit cycle. Another one of our drivers that have a driver camera on the night too, Daniel.
Yeah, Ellingson does have that driver cam, and this actually gives you a really good illustration of why the undercut works, because Jake Ellingson hit pit road 1 lap sooner than Tyler Justice did, and before that pit cycle, he was actually about 1.5 seconds behind. So just that 1 lap sooner has made the difference in Ellingson being able to close that gap, put a little bit more pressure on the 33 of Justice. You can see Jake there with the driver cam. And, you know, Logan, I think you might be able to recognize that picture there in the background behind him.
I do. I've been bagging on him for weeks about getting that picture up in the background, and it would be good luck for him. So I'm going to hold on to hope here for that 27 as he's finally sporting a custom-made photo that was given to him weeks ago. Can't help but laugh at that. Love seeing that. And, you know, the 27 in a good spot right now, as we mentioned, in P10 at the moment. Tyler Justice just ahead of him. Michael Kostick has brought it down pit road now from that lead spot. Jeremy Gardner has continued around one more time at Watkins Glen. Levi McCarty as well. So new leaders here late in the race, but it's going to be a little while before we see Mark Whitley challenge. He's 9 seconds back, but of course that 77 is fast here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good battle for position going on here between Logan Sturgeon and Daniel Parks. Those 2 drivers have not yet made their scheduled green flag stops, so running it a little bit longer here for these 2, currently battling inside the top 10. Be interesting to see where they shake out once they do end up coming down pit road. And you can see right there behind them, that battle between Ellingson and Justice still going on. Tyler Justice starting to put just a little bit of a gap now on Jake Ellingson. And of course, that's the downside of what we talked about with the undercut, is that now you've got a little bit of a tire disadvantage trying to chase the guy in front of you. But another good battle going on here is between Goshen and Stewart. These 2 still going at it here. You can see Michael Kostick in the background, the driver that was running in P2 before the pit cycle started. He's going to be closing in on these 2 here in just a corner or 2 with those fresher tires.
It's going to be something he'll have to watch out for as Eldon Stewart's going to bring it down. James Goshen gets extremely loose in front, collects it back together, but now we'll have to certainly give way to Michael Kostick as he shoots the inside on much fresher tires here, makes it look easy in that 3 machine. Goshen will now be at a disadvantage once he comes back around and into pit lane. I think Eldon Stewart will be able to jump for that position just based off the looseness there out of turn 8 for Goshen. Side by side down into turn 1 goes the 33 and the 71. Tyler Justice and Daniel Parks here for P7. Justice comes out ahead as they work their way up into the S's. Jacob Ellingson right behind both of them. My goodness, he is all over the back bumper. This could give a loose kind of condition there for either driver, and it looked like it did. The 27 got a little slideways out of the S's.
Yeah, and Tyler Justice did a great job of getting around the 71 there, who has yet to come down pit road. And you can see just that difference in tires now with Jake Ellingson kind of being trapped behind that 71 of Daniel Parks for about half a lap here. Tyler Justice able to put a little bit of a gap on these two drivers. So it looks like Ellingson should be able to complete that pass and try to take the fight back to Tyler Justice yet again. But Ellingson did lose quite a bit of time there to the 33 in that process. So we'll have to see if he can get the tires cooled back down and get back up there and put some more pressure on him. But one other thing we want to shout out real quick, you can see the sponsor on that 27, Lincoln Tech, as he always does run those Lincoln Tech colors, another one of our great sponsors here at Goat Locker. Lincoln Tech's mission is to provide superior education and training to students for in-demand careers in a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They are one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 23 campuses. They're a title sponsor here at Goat Locker and one of our biggest partners, and we definitely appreciate their support as well.
Being represented well right now by Jake Ellingson, currently up in the P6 spot. So good night for him in the 27 machine. Tyler Justice has gotten away now by 1.7 seconds. The battle is on for P8 just behind. Craig Bontrager able to get around Logan Sturgeon. That 26 machine got a little loose there. Bontrager capitalized on it. Sturgeon still has not brought it down. Levi McCarty still has not brought it down. Actually, I take that back. The 24 currently in pit road. Daniel Parks, Sturgeon, and Chuck Feltz, the only drivers remaining. Parks and Sturgeon both bringing it down pit road now. I'm calling it as it happens, Daniel.
Hey, you know what? We're not going to call that a broadcaster curse, but it seems to work out that way sometimes, where every time you mention this driver hasn't pitted, they're like, all right, well, then I'll just go ahead and prove you wrong and I'll bring it down pit road. But Levi McCarty here has just come out of the pits. He's going to try to make some ground up here. He did run that stint longer than anybody else as far as our top 5 before the pit cycle. And it put him a little bit behind on track position. He was up there in that 3rd, 4th position before the pit cycle started. Now finds himself behind Tyler Justice, but he does have fresher tires. It looks like he's got the pace that he can try to make a move here and get around the 33.
You have to think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, as Justice goes a little bit wide in turn 7. Hugs it to the inside for turn 8, gets loose on turn 8 exits. So that opens the door wide open for Levi McCarty. Taking a look to the inside. How's the brakes going to be? 5 laps of difference between the two. And McCarty backs out of it, thinks better of it, doesn't want to challenge that early in his run, knowing that those tires are not up to full temperature just yet. Single files out through the S's, the 33 screaming through at 135 miles an hour. It'll be 150 by the time they get out of the S's. And almost up to 170 miles an hour as they enter the braking zone for the bus stop.
Yeah, and you could really see there Levi McCarty struggling to get the power down at the top of the S's, as we've seen a few times here this evening. Back end just kind of dancing around on that number 24 car, 24 truck rather, I should say. But yeah, you can see he's just hounding the 33 of Tyler Justice right now, trying to find a way around. Back behind him, though, that looks like a puff of smoke off of the 27 truck of Jake Ellingson as he came out of the carousel. And I think he was using every last bit of that runoff area, trying to keep that truck under control. He's able to keep it pointed in the right direction. And in the meantime, Levi McCarty is able to complete the pass. He moves up into the 4th position.
I don't know how Ellingson saved that. He was nearly at a 90-degree angle of the inside wall in the corner exit of the carousel. We'll take it back here on a VSPEED instant replay. As they come down the backstretch into the bus stop, we've got a little bit of time here. Slides it through the corner. Being aggressive with the entry on the bus stop, maybe getting a little bit too much heat into the tires. A high entry down into the carousel. And watch this exit. The back end steps around. Whew, a little bit more than a 45-degree angle. It wasn't quite as extreme as I thought, but man, that was still a very well-timed save.
It was the power of that picture that he had behind him that helped him to save that truck, Logan. That's absolutely what it was.
I'm telling you.
And while we were watching that, the one of Eldon Stewart actually had a huge moment over in turn number 1, spun out, lost a little bit of ground there. Take a look on the VSPEED instant replay. He had been battling, trying to catch George Jewell there in the 36. Had just gotten around Chuck Phelps for the top 10. He gets down here into turn number 1, and oh yeah, that's we talked about the wheel hop a little bit earlier, and it looks like just got in there a little too hot with a little bit too much rear brake in it. Back end just steps around on him, but luckily able to keep it off of the tires, keep it off the wall. And right as soon as we were talking about that, James Kaufman with a little bit of an off-road excursion there through the final set of turns as well.
25 went wide, opened up the door for that 85 of James Goshen, and even allowed Eldon Stewart to close up that gap that just opened up. Stewart goes wide through turn 1, trying to make up that ground on the outside, sets up well on the inside for the entrance of the S's, but not so great for the top of the hill. A lot of dirty air can push that truck up into the wall on that left-hand section, but comes out side by side at the very top. He's got the advantage into the bus stop. We've seen him make the pass stick once before, but man, Kaufman didn't let it go easily. He was right on that left rear quarter panel. Chuck Phelps goes wide through the carousel. That'll allow both Goshen, Stewart, and now Kaufman through. The 75 will likely bring it down pit road this time. He is still yet to top off on fuel.
Yeah, he is definitely running it longer than anybody else here. Kind of surprised that he's not yet hit the pit lane for that scheduled stop that he'll have to make. But yeah, we'll see if he's able to use some fresher tires to make up that ground here as we get to the end of this race.
Don't look now, but in that same screen here of this battle for the top 10 spot, it's our race leader, Mark Whitley, screaming down the front stretch, catching up to this 4-car battle. Rather 3-car battle now, I suppose. That is not what you want to see in your rear view mirror whenever you're holding on to a top 10 spot as the race leader coming up at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, and that also just really emphasizes how dominant Mark Whitley has been this evening. I mean, you see it over there on the scoring pylon. 20-second lead over second place Michael Kostick, 30 seconds over Jeremy Gardner there in that number 3 position, and closing in on putting drivers in the top 10 a lap down. And, it's only a 40-lap race. If he's able to lap into the top 10, that is no small feat at a road course. So just really goes to show he's already established himself as one of the dominant drivers here in Goat Locker in any series that he's raced in, but showing that it's not just on the left turns, but that he can do it on the road courses as well.
It's been quite impressive to watch this 77 rip through Watkins Glen almost as if it's a straight line road, able to carry a lot more speed than, well, half the field. He is looking to put only 9 cars potentially on the lead lap, trying to work his way around the outside of James Kaufman just ahead. quite get the speed out of turn one to challenge for it, but here goes that gap immediately to the inside out of the S's, setting up for the bus stop pass. We'll see how Kaufman responds here on the outside line. He breaks earlier and lets him go by.
Yeah, just really impressive how much speed Whitley is able to carry up through the S's. And you can see it from that onboard angle that we had, just how much he closed in on the 25 of Kaufman, working up through there. Next truck in line going to be Eldon Stewart. You got to think he's probably struggling for grip just a little bit after that slide that he had in turn one earlier.
Covering nicely, however. Can't complain too much. He fell 3 positions back. He's gained 2 of them already, looking to get around the 85 of James Goshen once he catches back up to the back bumper there. But George Jewell has since gotten away from this entire pack, nearly 5 seconds ahead of Goshen, seemingly safe for the time being. Next closest battle in the field is the 49 of Craig Bontrager, 1.2 seconds behind Jamie Mullins, as they work out of the S's down to the bus stop here on lap 33. It is nearly the end of this race. Cruising Classics, well, we saw their commercial at the top of the show, but might as well just go ahead and mention their beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There's something for everybody out there in their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down and visit the facility today and check out their website at cruisingclassicsinc.com, located out there in Columbus, Ohio. Big part here of Goat Locker. They've been around at least as long as I have, if not longer. They are really just cruising around here at Watkins Glen, as the battle for that 7th position has heated up a little bit. Bontrager is closing the gap, getting a lot better of an exit out of turn one than Mullins does there.
Yeah, Bontrager has really closed this gap down in pretty short fashion here, right up on the back bumper now of Jamie Mullins. And I think Mullins pulling to the inside there, he's just going to say, you know what, you caught me by about 1.5 seconds over the course of probably about 2 or 3 laps. So go ahead and have it. Let's just get to the end of this thing. And honestly, at that point, probably the wise decision to just say, you're faster than me. And it's not really going to be worth it to possibly make a mistake myself and end my night. So nice job there by Bontrager, showing a lot of speed here late in this run.
Well, let's work our way up a little bit further here. Hop on board maybe for a lap with Jeremy Gardner holding down that 3rd position after the pit cycle. Take a look at what it's like to have the speed for 3rd place here tonight. Shooting through the bus stop at roughly 110 on the entry, trying to creep back up to 100 miles an hour on the exit. You got to slow it way down here for the carousel, touching about 80 miles an hour at the apex kind of section of turn number 6. It's the back-to-back 90-degree left-hander, turn 7, 90-degree right-hander to the front stretch here to complete a lap at Watkins Glen. So we are only 6 to go here, Daniel. It is nearly over.
Yeah, getting down to the end of this race, and I think barring something akin to Moses parting the Red Sea, Mark Whitley pretty well has this one in hand with that 24, almost 24-second lead here over Michael Kostick, Jeremy Gardner for the podium positions there. So just another really strong performance out of him. Take a look through the field here, and it looks like even back there for our 5th position, Tyler Justice still kind of setting sail here over Jake Ellingson. So let's take a quick moment while we can and just thank another one of our great league sponsors that we have that helps everything go around, and that's going to be InVets. And InVets aids in transitioning to civilian life, focusing on job placement and finding the right community for veterans and their families to ensure their success and happiness. They're a veteran nonprofit in Indiana with the goal of bringing veterans to that state to live and work. They're also the title sponsor of our Sunday Xfinity series. And they are the ones that also do a lot of work behind the scenes helping Goat Locker to find the sim rig recipients, those sim rigs that we've been able to give away here in this league.
I believe up to now to 13 as the most recent sim rig giveaway winner. Claimed that. I believe Jonathan Lawless, the man, the myth, the legend. Not out here on these Friday nights, but you can catch him on multiple other races throughout the week. Don't forget the GT3 series tomorrow, sponsored by Glove Station. Of course, our ARCA series on Monday. Tuesday night, the Lincoln Tech IndyCar series. Wednesday, the Next Gens. And of course, tonight, the SAVE22.vet Truck Series. The battle heating up just outside of the top 10. Eldon Stewart now within a half second for that 10th place spot. See if he can work his way around James Goshen. He still is the biggest mover of the race, up 7 positions from the lap number 1 start. See if he can make it an even number 8 as he looks to the outside on the entry of the S's. That's a bold maneuver right there, Eldon Stewart. I don't know if it's going to work, and he falls back in line behind that 85 of Goshen.
And, you know, it may seem trivial to some people, this battle for the final spot in the top 10, but if you're James Goshen, you've been running in the top 10 all night. The last thing that you want to do is lose a top 10 finish with just a couple of laps to go. You know he's going to be giving it everything he can to try to hang on to that top 10. But if you're Eldon Stewart, you know, if at least for me, I'd rather finish in about 20th than go out there and finish in 11th and say, man, I was that close to coming home with a top 10. You just feel like you left it on the table out there. So you know Eldon Stewart wants this position too, and he is all over the back of the 85 as they make contact. They hit a couple of times. They're both able to keep it straight, though. Holy cow, I do not know how they did not both wad them up right there. That was an impressive save out of both drivers.
Door banging into turn 8 will prove that doesn't work too well. As that gap rips right back open. Eldon Stewart had the drive of a lifetime to get there. So we take it back here on the VSPEED instant replay. The slight crossover there. Oh, a little bit of net code at play. Got the front end of the one all sorts of loose. Did a great job to recover it as he is still loose, getting back on the loud pedal down the front stretch. I don't know if he'll have enough time to attack for that top 10 spot again, but he stayed within a second of Goshen despite everything that just happened.
Yeah, really nice job of hanging on to it there by Eldon Stewart. And really, for all intents and purposes, he only has 2 laps to get it done, even though we see 3 to go, because these 2 drivers are currently a lap down to race leader Mark Whitley. So a little bit less time even for him to try to get the job done and get into that top 10. But looks like he's already started to pull that gap back just a little bit here.
Just a touch as Mark Whitley working his way up to the back bumper now of the 66 of Jamie Mullins, trying to make it possibly 6 drivers remaining on the lead lap. Hot on the trail, working through the S's. Inside, outside, crossover. I'm certain that he'll go back to, no, he sticks it on the outside and gets right around the 66 of Mullins. No problem at all, and only about 10 seconds away from seeing that 49 of Craig Bontrager. But as he comes down through the carousel, the next lap being the white flag in the air, I don't think he's going to get there, but an impressive feat nonetheless.
Yeah, really impressive. And, you know, we were just talking about that battle between Goshen and Eldon Stewart. It's still going on. Eldon Stewart has reeled in James Goshen, caught right back up to the back bumper of the 85. And they are battling for this final spot in the top 10. Eldon Stewart definitely has the speed to get it done. I mean, we saw the contact. He dropped back by about a second, able to make that gap up in pretty short fashion. The question is, how do you get around him? They always say catching him is one thing, passing him is another. He's got one more lap to try to figure it out.
For the final time tonight, down the front stretch we go into turn 1. Mark Whitley already working his way up through the S's, just ahead of these drivers. They'll have one more car to try to work around. That's the 64 of Matt Knight. This could pose a issue here for either one of these drivers. We'll see how they manage it. Whitley into the bus stop, 25 seconds ahead of Michael Kostick. But the battle here for the top 10. It's the closest one on the field. We've got a lot of smoke here. We've got somebody around, I think. Craig Bontrager, James Goshen, one of those drivers possibly having issues. No, George Jewell or Craig Bontrager. Bontrager does go around, loses a spot to the 36 of Jewell. Eldon Stewart, James Goshen get around Matt Knight. But at the front of the field, it's Mark Whitley coming out of turn 8. Checkered flag waves in a dominant effort. 35 laps led and 25 seconds ahead of second place. 33 seconds ahead of third. What a drive. Eldon Stewart still trying to get that spot in the top 10, but falls just short as James Goshen brings it home in 10th.
Yeah, really spirited battle between the two of them all the way through the final turn. But you mentioned it, Mark Whitley just pretty much taking him to the woodshed here this evening. That's going to make win number 4 and back-to-back wins on the season for the 77.
Him work his way back around the course, get his celebration in order at the front stretch. I misspoke a little earlier ago. 36 laps led, nearly breaking into the 1 minute 11 second bracket. He held the fastest lap time by a wide margin, a half second ahead. Michael Kostick has the second fastest lap time with a 1 minute 12.674. Jeremy Gardner being the only other driver to crack into that 1 minute 12 second bracket. The rest of the field, 113s, 114s for their best lap of the night. Whitley finally gets back to the front stretch here. See just how well the 77 can burn it down. Certainly has enough fuel left if he can keep it off the wall here on the pit road. It's a narrow portion. It's nearly like Bristol. There's not a whole lot of real estate to do a burnout here, but the 77 of Whitley does it. He's had a lot of practice here, making it win number 4. Well, we'll get right back to it with our post-race show and interviews with our top 3 finishers. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you, day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.
And we are back here in New York State. Watkins Glen put on quite the show. We saw it live, but let's run through the full race results. The 77 of Mark Whitley claiming win number 4 on the season. Michael Kostick takes home a P2 on the night, with Jeremy Gardner rounding out our podium finishers. Levi McCarty put up one heck of a fight with Gardner for that third spot. Ultimately, the pit cycle claims victim of the 24, putting him back in 4th. Tyler Justice rounds out the top 5 with the 27. Good luck over his shoulder, finishing out in P6. Jamie Mullins in the 66 takes home 7th on the night, with George Jewell in P8. Craig Bontrager and James Goshen will round out our top 10.
Finishing just outside the top 10 after what was a pretty eventful evening. In 11th position, the one of Eldon Stewart. James Kaufman coming home in 12th. Charles Abert in 13th. Daniel Parks in 14th. Chuck Pegleg Felts coming home in 15th this evening, with Matt Knights in 16th. And then a few drivers that looks like they called it a night just a little bit early after running into some trouble. So Logan Sturgeon brings it home in 17th. Brandon Wallace in 18th. Warren Clayton in 19th. And rounding out the field this evening, Michael Seymour in 20th.
3 lead changes on the night. Our top guy, Mark Whitley, leading 35 out of 40 laps. Let's get him up here into the booth and have a quick word with our race winner, Mark Whitley. You've got Logan and Daniel up here in the VSPEED booth. You have a copy driver.
Yep, I got you.
36 laps led. I've had to correct myself on that twice now. Started on the pole, set the fastest lap, had the most laps led, got the race win. I don't know what else you can call this other than a complete dominating effort. 26.9 seconds separated you in second place. Mark Whitley, what was the key to success here tonight at Watkins Glen?
Honestly, it's just to be smooth, not to make any mistakes. This track's really fast. It's easy to make mistakes. Just hit your marks over and over and over again, pretty much. Thankfully, it's one of my more favorite road courses. So I've run it here so many times. I have a lot of muscle memory. It just worked out pretty good. Was able to get a little bit of a gap to Michael there early in the race, and then I was able to just kind of not have to worry about looking in the mirror, just kind of hitting my own marks. And then I think I don't know. I mean, this is as nice as I can. This is probably the best road course races I've ever had when it comes to lap cars, because usually lap cars are all over the place when it comes to road courses, because a lot of people just don't like running them. So they're just trying their best. But I never felt like I ever got held up by one. Everybody I came up on just either knew how to let me pass, or they just completely let me go without any fight. And it was kind of a nice fresh of breath air, because I know a lot of times in these road course races, just people are just trying to stay on the track. So I think everybody top to bottom did an awesome job tonight. Got a just big shout out to everybody that ran tonight, honestly.
Well, it's been a dominating season so far, and you cap it off here on week 7 with another dominating race. 4 wins on the season in the series is no easy feat, and we've come accustomed to you being up here on these podium interviews nonetheless. If you're not on the top, you're somewhere in the top 3. Mark Whitley, you're no stranger to this one. Who do you have to say thanks to for your race win tonight?
Yeah, big shout out to my spotter, Brantley. I know he said I like to make these the road course racing's boring, but I'm kind of glad it's boring for him. But big shout out to him. He does awesome job on the spotter stand. And he also does awesome job in the paint booth. Check him out at harpoondesign.com. One of the best painters here on iRacing. Check him out. My other sponsor, Jawa.gg. They're the best number one online gaming marketplace for gamers, by gamers. Have the best deals, protections. If you need an upgrade or just a whole brand new system, check them out at Jawa.gg. All my friends tune in these broadcast races. Daryl, I know he's not a huge fan, but he tuned in. Vector, I think will be tuning in later. All of them guys over there just watching. Appreciate it. Always great to have friends just watching you do what we love. All you guys broadcasting the race, the league sponsors, Lincoln Tech, SAVE22, Indiana Department of Affairs, InVets, like all of them guys, Glove Station. They make this league what it is, and I'm super glad I found it. This league does an awesome job at everything they do, and can't wait to continue racing here, and hopefully we can get more people in here because it's a great league.
Absolutely is. Congratulations once again, Mark Whitley. Race win number 4. Get to celebrate and get some practice in because next week it's the Lady in Black. She won't be so easy. We'll catch up with you.
Sounds good.
We'll catch up with you next week, Mark.
All right, sounds good, guys. Take it easy.
Mark Whitley, everybody. Again, just a fantastic effort. 36 laps led, but Daniel Cunningham, I believe you've caught up with our second place finisher, Michael Kostick.
Yeah, hey, Kostick, this is Daniel up in the VSPEED booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, good job on the second place tonight. You did get to lead a couple of laps. Started second, finished second. Kind of a quiet night for you in that regard. Just how was the race out there, and what did you need to be able to get up there and try to maybe mount a challenge to the 77?
Well, the race was boring from my point of view. I don't know what I needed to get up there. I don't know. The truck was loose at first, and then on the right-handers, I seemed to get a lot of understeer, which caught me by surprise. So, yeah, I wasn't really sure what to do with that. But, yeah, I mean, it was just a quiet night, just cruising.
Well, hey, at least you got a good-looking truck, and maybe the secret ingredient was just a little bit more Jack Daniels, either before, during, or hell, maybe even after the race.
That's always the answer.
Yeah, that's always a good answer. But
you know, I had a chance to make $10, but instead I decided to run the race. So.
Yeah, we should probably just go ahead and leave that where it's at. Hey, good run though. Nice job on the second place. Who do you want to thank? Any sponsors or shout outs for it?
Yeah, I thank Jam Printing and Promotions, SAVE22, Alexander PCs, you guys, VSPEED for doing the broadcast, and then all my teammates at Bandits.
And hey, real quick, Lucas Lyons wanted me to ask you a question because, you know, we don't give him mic privileges most of the time. He said,
Tylenol.
Good God. He said that you gave more than just a 1 or 2 word answer. Are you sick? Are you feeling okay? Like, that's not like you.
I did a couple shots when I got home from work.
That story checks out. Well, good talking to you. Congrats on the second place. We'll see you at Darlington.
All right, man. Thanks.
That is our second place finisher, Michael Kostick. Logan, it's your turn. It's your turn. We're going to bring Big Daddy up here, and you can go ahead and shot.
I don't quite know how to follow that up, but maybe Jeremy Gardner will take it away for us. Our third place finisher started out in 5th, moved up 2 spots. Jeremy Gardner, how are you doing, big fella?
I'm ready to go to bed.
I believe that, but we've got to do an interview with you first here. You had quite the battle with Levi McCarty to start out the race and finally got around on that pit cycle there. It's you had 1 lap or 2 lap advantage over him. Do you think that really played into the factor, or do you think you had a little bit more in the tank to finally get around that 24 naturally?
I think I actually got around it before I pitted, but I don't know. That truck was driving awful being right up on his bumper. I kept swinging loose out of 1 and 2, but he was also loose out of 1 and 2. So I don't know. That was fun there for, 6, 7 laps. We did that. And I don't know. It was a handful tonight. I couldn't find the speed the top 2 guys were running. I couldn't keep the truck without spinning. So I don't know what the hell was going on with me tonight.
Well, only 3 of you were able to crack into the 1 minute 12-second bracket on the night, so nothing to scoff at there. And of course, a road win podium. You've got to be happy with that. I believe you've already got a race win locking you in here for the playoffs coming up. So, how's the momentum feeling in the corner of the 42?
Feels good. We're going to my favorite track next week, so kind of hoping I can redeem myself from the Wednesday race at Darlington. So I don't know. It feels pretty good. I've had pretty good finishes all season, so I haven't had any DNFs. The consistency's been there, so hopefully it can play out to the last race.
Fingers crossed. You're no stranger to it. Jeremy Gardner, who do you have to say thanks to for your 3rd place finish at Watkins Glen?
Pat and Jamie always, GLR, iRacing, MK Fire Design, Sim Motion. Of course, y'all guys for putting on the broadcast. Can't wait to go back and watch it. My guys over at SAVE22, appreciate everything they do for the series, everything they do for Goat Locker, and my guys over at Premier Racing Setups.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, and we'll catch up with you next week at Darlington. Maybe keep the hot streak rolling.
Let's roll with it.
Your P3 finisher, Jeremy Gardner, will round out our podium interviews on the night. Only one more question that stands. Daniel Cunningham, what were your thoughts on tonight's race here in New York State?
I'll be honest, I'm still trying to get over that 2nd place interview. I'm still sitting here laughing to myself about it. But yeah, saw a lot of good side-by-side battles throughout the field. Of course, it gets strung out sometimes at road courses, but saw Eldon Stewart basically gave us a lot to talk about throughout the night while Mark Whitley took the field to the woodshed. So still a lot of good racing going on, but I am excited that next week, well, I'm a little excited and disappointed because I won't be here next week for my favorite racetrack on all of iRacing, the best track that there is on iRacing, God's gift to stock cars, and that's the Lady in Black. But I know one thing, that these drivers here in the SAVE22 Truck Series will put on one fantastic show next week when we do get to the Lady in Black.
And not to mention being the driver's choice of favorite band night. So keep an eye out for some fresh paint schemes out there on the track that's too tough to tame. But for now, for everybody behind the scenes at Goat Locker Racing, Patrick Drabick, Jamie Farkas, all of our fantastic crew that runs the thankless job of race control and everything else that they do, as well as everybody behind the scenes at VSPEED, Adam Baker, Bradley Cooper, Morgan Cook, of course, Eddie Smith. Our producer tonight, Lucas Lyons, with the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And as always, my colleague in the booth, Daniel Cunningham. My name is Logan Threlkeld. We will see you next week in Darlington. Good night, everybody, and have a great weekend.